We'll find out. Just gonna wait for the stream to catch up with me. Oh, good morning, everybody. Well, morning for me. Welcome to Live Coding with me, Rachel. We are going to be working on something that we've been working on for a while, which is our dialect quiz bot. So let me make sure things are looking good. Yes, fantastic. Levels look good. Okay, just waiting on YouTube, making sure that that is correct. Yes, fantastic. Hi. So, we are working on a project that we've been working on for a while, and basically we're doing the same thing as the New York Times dialect quiz. So if you're not familiar, it's a quiz you go through and you answer a bunch of questions, like how would you address a group of 2 or more people. And at the end of all the questions, you get a map. We're not doing maps. And then the top 3 places where it sounds like people talk most like you based on your answers to the quiz. So that's the deal. And we're doing the same thing in chatbot form. And for a while, we've been working on, we had a working classifier that gave us classifications that were wrong in weird ways. So right now, we're going to take our model that we've been building. So we have in here our information and a little sample pipeline. Oh, connecting to a kernel. That should allow us to run our new model correctly, and we just have to take this model that we've exported that should be good to go, fingers crossed, and plop it into our existing assistant. And just to show you what our existing assistant does, so in another terminal, I've started the action server. So the action server, there's 2 servers you need to run a Rasa assistant. Well, you only need one. So one is the Rasa server, and this is what figures out what somebody says and picks the correct next thing to say based on the information that you provided. And then the action server runs all the other code you might need. So in my case, the form, so collecting a bunch of answers to a bunch of questions in order and not having to write out a story that's like, here's the question, here's the answer, here's the question, here's the answer, and automates that, is in the action server. And the other thing that's in the action server is our old model. So let's just run through really quick. So we have our action server up and running. We updated Rasa. I updated Rasa. Pretty sure I did that on stream. So I went through and I retrained a new version of my model using the latest version of Rasa. And I should now be able to interact with my assistant in the command line. Once we have our model up and working, our new model up and working, we're going to switch to Rasa X to start to iterate a little bit more with our assistant in a little bit of a nicer interface. Not that I don't love the command line, but it's not the best play to do. For example, end-to-end testing, we can do that in Rasa X, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So we've said hi. Our assistant says, do you want to take a quiz to learn more about when in the United States people talk most like you? Sure do. Absolutely. Love a good dialect quiz. Also, there's a little bit of an extra delay because of the way that Windows does localhost port forwarding, and I know there's a way to fix it, and I am just too lazy to do it. So it's not our model being slow. It's a Windows issue. What do you call a small bug? Technically a crustacean. It's often found under logs and can roll into a little ball. Put my fingers on the right row. I'd say that's a pill bug. Or a roly-poly, maybe. I'd say that too. What do you call a sweet carbonated beverage? Soda. So I'm just going through and answering this as I would for myself, and I want to see what our current model, which is going to give us ridiculously wrong answers, says. How do you address a group of 2 or more people? I'd say y'all. Do you pronounce caught and caught different or the same? Different. Which maybe you could hear if you have that vowel distinction yourself. Don't call that nothing. And I should be able to put in whatever answer I want because we're doing data validation to map the user answer to the closest multiple choice answer. And if none of them are particularly close, we assign them other. So all of this is happening under the covers, but you don't have to see it to use the assistant. I say crawfish. Or crayfish. Or crawdad. I'd say all those things. Maybe crawfish. Crayfish? Don't have a word for that. I know some people call it Devil's Night or Mischief Night, but it's just not something from where I grew up. Hoagie, I guess? A long sandwich with meat, veggies, and other toppings. You can call it a sub or a grinder or a bunch of other stuff. That is an access road. Rubber-soled athletic shoes, tennis shoes. Again, all of these things are questions that have multiple answers depending on where people are in the U.S. or where they've picked up English from. Big road you can drive fast, I'd call that a highway. I would call secondhand items for sale from yard or porch, I'd call that a yard sale. So we actually don't ask as many questions as the original New York Times dialect quiz does. I pared it down a little bit. I picked just the most discriminative questions. Rubbernecking is a traffic jam caused by drivers slowing to look down at an accident. Because, as you can see, this is a lot of questions to answer. They mean different things. So frosting is fluffy and icing is dribbly to me. Does the first syllable of lawyer rhyme with boy or law when you say it? Boy. Boyer. Lawyer. What term do you use to refer to something that is diagonal from an intersection? Kitty corner. Herzon maybe says, has anything changed in version 2 regarding the creation of menus with numbers? So I'm assuming you're talking about Rasa 2.0. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go and look at the release notes. That also just went into alpha. So one of the things that we're going to do in Livestream is we're going to transition this assistant from 1.0 to 2.0, but not until it's after the stable release. We're not going to do that during the alpha. Insect that flies around in summer and glows in the dark. That's a lightning bug. Again, I can misspell things because we're using fuzzy matching to do our input validation. Being Bam says, been following you since Kaggle. I'll soon be starting my Master's of Science in Computer Science. Oh, exciting. I'm really excited. Interested in working with you. There's so much to learn. Let me know if I can. Thank you. I think probably if you're interested in working at Rasa, the best way to do that would be to check our jobs page and pull it up really quick. I think we might have filled the intern position, but we did have an intern position that was a little bit more research focused. I will finish the little quiz. Oh, no, we do have, looks like it's Berlin only, but we have a working students in software engineering position that might be a good fit for you. And I don't know how strict the requirement is that it has to be in Berlin, so worth asking, I guess. What do you call the area of grass between the sidewalk and the road? The verge. Usual says, how many questions are there? I think there's 21, maybe? What do you call a drive-through liquor store? Brew-through? So there are a lot of dialect areas in the United States. And being able to distinguish them pretty well does unfortunately take a lot of questions. Water fountain is the thing you drink water from in a school. But yeah, this is definitely a little bit of a longer quiz. So here, just for all right. So just for data validation, here are all of the answers that we had. Just search bug soda, y'all. Okay. It looks like pill bug actually was misidentified. It looks like we're missing the pill. And you can see I have no word for this is what was picked for when the rain falls when the sun is shining. Or, no, other is rain falls when the sun is shining is what that was mapped to. I have no word for this is what you call the night between before Halloween was mapped to. And then we ran into an issue while running the action detect dialect. And then we told this person it sounds like they don't come from anywhere because we didn't correctly detect something. This error is probably due to a problem unpickling the model that we were using, but we're not going to use that model anymore. So let's dive in. All right. Usual says none is a ridiculous prediction. Yeah, so it's initialized as empty, and then we pick the top three, I believe. So let's fix this. So what we do have, and I'm going to run this just to make sure it do run, here is we have a little sample pipeline of how we're going to go through and do all of the classification in our assistant. So we're importing libraries we need. We have some sample data, empty data structure here, which is all, excuse me, the columns that we need because we're using one-hot encoding in order to encode our data. And I've talked about that in previous streams. Oh, stream is disconnected. Waiting for it to reconnect. All right, maybe it's back. Reconnecting. This is very frustrating. Disconnected, attempting to reconnect. Yeah, no, I can see that my stream is experiencing issues. Thank you for the heads up. All right, and we are back, hopefully. I have pretty much isolated this to an ISP thing. So soon, I guess, I'm planning on switching ISPs, but it does mean I'm not going to have internet for a bit, which I'm not a fan of. Anyway, hate it. I hate it so much. Drives me up the wall. And the worst thing from my standpoint, besides the obviously problems of disconnecting, is that it splits the videos on YouTube. And there's no way to combine YouTube videos anymore. You used to be able to, and they removed it. And if I download them and then splice them myself and then re-upload them, I lose all the nice comments. So not ideal for me, obviously. So what are we doing? We're reconnecting. We're taking in... Shrona says connected. Yes, it's working. Ravi says, say it's very popular dialogue in Bollywood one time. I'm gonna pass on that because I don't know what it means. We read in all the libraries we need. We are taking the empty data structure, and then we have just like a little sample data structure that we're going to replace with our user. And then we are encoding our data structure using the columns that we provided in the empty data structure. So this align is doing, this align and get dummies is doing one-hot encoding for us. And then all of the empty columns we are filling with 0 instead of NA because one-hot encoding is 0 in all columns where the feature is not true of the row and 1 in all columns where the feature is true of the row. And then we use that in this feature that in this function that returns the top 3 most likely states that the user talks most like the people from. What I'm trying to avoid saying is I'm not guessing what states people are from, right? Because I don't think we have sufficient, what's what I'm looking for? Acuity, I guess, in order to actually do that reliably. And I also don't want to suggest that that's something you should do, right? Like this is a fun quiz to help you learn about dialects in the United States and not a way to figure out where someone's from, if that makes sense. That's what I'm going for. Okay. So, what do we want to do now? First, take a drink of coffee. I think what I want to do is I want to create a new function that does the encoding. So let's do that. So def encode. No, I don't need to specify that it's encode. Encode answers. And then it needs to take in, I'm just going to say just the data, and then I'm going to have it read in the function, read the data in. And someone did say last time that a line might be a little bit brittle, so we'll find out. We'll find out if there's issues. Read in empty data frame with correct columns. And then return encoded data, and then instead, let's just call this sample data as well. Unexpected indent. I think that's a Python 2 thing. Yeah, okay, no, that definitely is. Now, when you say unexpected indent, is it you? Oh, I think it's this one. Okay. Except you should be indented. All right, there we go. That's much better. Okay, now, there we go. Okay, so the unexpected indent was the indent of the rows underneath this encoding sample align function. So now we should be able to one rows columns. Okay, excellent. So I had a bad moment where I thought this might be a tuple, but I believe this is in fact a data I didn't call it that. I called it encoded data. Ooh, actually, I should also do this in the same function, huh? So we're putting all of the things together. So what we are actually doing here is convert NAs to 0. So I'm just taking all of the steps that we did in order and making them a little bit more streamlined, putting them in a single function. Let me add a doc string to this. Pretty sure that's the wrong one. Yeah, there we go. That's right. That's what a doc string looks like. Reads in the sample encoded data with correct columns and converts input data. Actually, I think input data is a better name than sample data. I'm going to call this encoded data instead. There we go. All right. So then if we look at sample data at this point, fantastic. Okay, so that looks like a correct one-hot encoding. For some reason, the zeros are floats. This happened last time as well. No idea what's causing that. Does not seem to be affecting any of the downstream tasks, so I'm just going to ignore it for now. Reads in sample encoded with correct columns and converts input data to the same format. All right, fantastic. So that's how we get the encoded data. So I can actually get rid of that right there. And I think what I can also do is read in the model inside the function. So now we no longer need to specify what the model is. I'm going to say top 3 can end, just so it's a little bit clearer what precisely this function is doing. Alright, and it still works the way that we expect it to. Oh, actually, let's double check that we are actually using the sample data we created earlier. Alright, same output. Fantastic. So now, instead of having a bunch of sort of like unconnected pipeline things, we just have 2 functions. Oh, and let me add a doc string to this function as well, just to make our lives a little bit easier in the future. See what we're doing. Read in the canon model and apply it to correctly formatted sample data. Should I? Yeah. I don't think I should assume that I'm going to get the correct data. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to encode the answers. What did I do? Oh, I cannot undo. Restart. Is there a redo? Well, I was doing the right thing and it just did not work. So, I guess we'll... You sure that's not gonna work? Okay, it sure doesn't. Fortunately, I'm pretty sure I have... let's go back to the business end and then check out the... Nope. Sample pipeline. Pipeline B. Connecting to kernel, connecting to kernel, connecting to kernel. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to take another copy of this from this one and then go back to where I was. I don't know why redo is not working right now in VS Code, specifically in Jupyter. It might be a Jupyter specific thing. Okay. Lois says, have a nice day to you all. Oh, thank you, Lois. Or Louis, maybe? Alright, so... There we go. These are the 2 lines I accidentally deleted. And I want them back. There we go. Fantastic. Alright, now you can leave. So what are we doing? Reading this thin, and then I wanted to say that we are also doing the encode input data using our other function up here, encode answers. And then we are actually predicting using the encoded data. All right, so we should now be able to get the whole, All right, so we now should be able to get the get top 3 can end just from our raw sample data that we read in the first time. No, we have an error. Oh, right. It's because I called the model state can end and I replaced it some places and then I deleted it and I could not get it back. All right. Now this should work. There we go. Okay, excellent. So now we need to read in both functions and obviously import the libraries we need. Wow. More coffee. But then we should be able to just apply the second function once and get the answer that we need. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. Let me put these both into a single cell. There we go. And I can get rid of the little comments above the each of the functions, because we have now doc strings that describe what the functions do. And once we put these into our action folder, one thing that we are going to have to do is we're going to have to get the correct file path to these files, because right now they are in the model bits folder. This is running in the model bits folder. It will work fine here, but because these are relative file paths, once we move the code, we're also going to need to move the update the file path so that it points to the correct thing. Lewis says, Robbie says Lewis is Microsoft NLP library. I know that it exists, but I don't think I've ever used it. All right, we got two functions. Rachel, could you have done this as an object-oriented thing? Yes, but I didn't. I think pipelines make a lot of sense to be a little bit more functional. IMO. So the actions.py, this is where the magic happens. So right now, elicitation form actions, this is where we're getting all of the information from the user. You can see I've still got some to-dos left. We'll handle that later. And then create validation function, and then submit. All right, and then the detect dialect action. So we have a little database of slot values and corresponding questions. Okay, so I already created this. Fantastic. Format user input. It's PD series. All right, so here's the classifier pipeline. Let's just go through and quickly look at this, because it's been a while since I saw this code. Placeholder message for guessing dialects. Okay, so I don't think we're actually using this code. Excuse me, I don't think we're actually using this code right now. Coding data, predicting cities. All right, so, and then we read data in as a separate thing. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to call this something different. I'm not going to delete it. Classifier pipeline, XGBoost. And instead, I'm going to create a new classifier pipeline and keep this, because I might want it for reference. And go through and update it for our k-nearest neighbors. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I have all the libraries I need. I think we've got everything but scikit-learn neighbors. Joblib. Yeah, pandas, numpy. Yep. Everything with scikit-learn neighbors. Get rid of you. Actually, I want to move this so that it's with my other scikit-learn import. There we go. All right. So, okay, so it looks like there was another signal blip again. Sorry about that. But we're back. Love to be... I got a lot of feelings about my personal ISP that are not charitable. Fortunately, I have the ability to use a different one, which is not true of many places in the United States. They're private companies. Anyway, okay, so we've got all the libraries that we need, and all of this will be the same for both of them, I think. Classifier pipeline. Oh, I see. So we're reaching in from the classifier pipeline. So none of this code will run because it's referring to a classifier pipeline here. So we want our own one. So we're going to return canon state. I think 5 canon state is the clearest description of what it is that we're doing. We do not need a load data function. We are in fact good to delete this. And we do have an encode data function, but we are actually doing the data loading in the encoding, so I'm not super concerned about that. So just copy this, pop it in here on top of the encode data. Make sure my indents are correct. That looks good. And then I mentioned that we're going to need to update the file paths. So it's going to be from actions. It's in model_bits. And then that direction. All right, so that should work. And then the prediction, and I'm actually going to keep this little bit at the end where it converts it to a list, because I think that's also what we want to do, rather than returning an array, because I think that's going to be a little bit less good to just tell people. So I'll paste that, make sure that's good. Yeah, so I'm going to call this results instead. Actually, the only thing I need to do is I need to convert it to a list. Yeah, okay, fantastic. And I'm pretty sure this will work, but let me double check in my little sample pipeline here. So I said .toList, right? So let's just really quickly, yeah, excellent. So we instead get this, so the thing that it was previously was a little bit less good for reading. All right, so that should be good. Oh, and I do need to make sure that I am pointing it to the, again, correct file to load in. There we go. All right. Deepak says, is there any opening in your company for freshers? I think the current job openings is probably the best place to look. Obviously anything with senior in the job title is not going to work well if it's your first role. But we do have a student role if you're a student. I think it's a little bit rare for people's first role in tech to be a product position, but if it's, if you have product management experience, that might be a good one. And then we have a researcher position, which you probably want a PhD to apply for. Yeah. Kuldeep says, do you think GPT-3 is the next level of chatbot? Any thoughts? I certainly wouldn't be comfortable using raw GPT-3 output and serving that to a person. We know that there's abusive language it can generate. We know that there's, stereotypical and biased language that it can generate. So we actually, Vincent, who's another one of the developer advocates here, wrote a blog post about it. I'll share it in the chat so you can take a look. Basically, we think that GPT-3 can be useful for potentially generating sample utterances as long as you have careful human evaluation of the output data beforehand. We do not recommend GPT-3 just like as is. And of course you're welcome to ignore our recommendations and try it out, but I would not be comfortable honestly using any sort of neural generation for something that's customer focused. Yeah, like there's no... Okay, let's say you have, I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but this is a question I get a lot, so I think it's worth discussing. So let's say you have a assistant that handles returns of products, and you have completely neural language output. Well, your completely neural model might have learned that people are likely to say, oh, of course we'll offer a full refund for that, or we'll send you another one for free, which might be your return policy or might not. And your assistant might make, promises that you can't or have no intention of keeping. And I would not want to lie to consumers. So anyway, that's just an example. There's a lot of discussion about it. I think it might be helpful occasionally, but I would not, again, choose to use it in a public-facing assistant. All right, so that looks good to go. And then the next thing that we need to do, actually we only need to do one thing because the way that I put together my functions. So all we need to do is use this get top 3 can because it will refer to other functions in our same class. And then the name of the classifier pipeline is classifier pipeline canon. And then the only thing that it needs in is, I went too fast. Oop. Oh, fascinating. Now this works. Huh. Formatted responses is what the input format is called. So also, I feel like I might have lost a little bit of work here. I feel like this might have reverted because we definitely did do that. All right, classifier pipeline.knn, and then get top 3 canon is our function. There we go. And then we just need the formatted response as the input, and now it should work, hopefully. Except here's the problem, is that we have this mapping, which I'm just gonna assume is right and is going to bite me in the butt in a bit. I can feel that coming. GPT-3 HAL 9000, an evil robot from a science fiction film. How about GPT-3 as a fallback policy? Oh, no. So in Rasa, when you say fallback policy, that's what you do when your assistant isn't sure of what else to do. And that's a good time to ask for additional clarification or be like, here's the things I can do, or I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. So I would not. Yeah. And I don't know. I get that it's an exciting piece of technology, but it feels not ready to me. And it feels like we don't know how to really responsibly deploy neural generated text in a user-facing way just as a field. So that's my 2 cents. Your mileage may differ. All right, so one thing that we do have to change here is that we actually have slightly different answers. So the original one that I trained was using a slightly different data set. And what I have done is I've gone through here, and I should have, there we go. I should have a little JSON file that I might be able to copy paste. So I'm going to try and do here is this. Oh, did I do, yeah, I did new row after every comma. You know what? I think that's overkill and just is more scrolling than I want to do. So I'm just going to sort of like keep all my lines at more or less the right same height. And then I'm going to put each one on, same length rather. And then I'm going to put each new slot on a new line as well. I don't know. Maybe this is hard to read. I can always go back and fix it later. There-ish. There-ish. Firefly. So these are the slightly different, so if we look at crawfish here, here we have the options crawfish, crayfish, crowfish, crawdad, mudbug, no word for this critter, and other. And here we have crawdad, crawfish, crayfish, crowfish. I have no word for this critter, mudbug, and other. So I think one of those was different. And again, these are the classes that our classifier is going to expect. So we want to make sure that whatever you train your classifier or any machine learning model with, you're going to have exactly the same data preparation when you deploy it. All right. Oh, you're a long one, huh? I'm going to edit the, oh no, I can't. I was just saying I'm going to edit these slightly. That is not going to work because that would be changing something between the testing and the training. Or rather the training and the deployment. All right, getting there. Looks like about there. All right, so when I run through this again, I fully expect to get some exciting new errors that we're just gonna have to deal with. Oh, here's an interesting one. So it looks like dope is synonym for soda here, and that's probably due to it's having drugs in it at some point in the past. So like the Coke in Coca-Cola is cocaine. It does not have cocaine in it anymore, but it did at one point. All right, there we go. Okay, so we should be good to go. I'm gonna get rid of you. Oh, that does look better, huh? Well, I'll deal with that later. All right. And I think we have, God, I hope we have the same slots. We'll find out. So let's start by, do I have, no, changing directory into the correct one, and then I'm going to do Rasa run action. So that's going to run the server that runs all of our Python code. And if there's a bug in the Python code, it'll try to do it and I'll have some errors. All right, looks like that works. So now let's try using our assistant with our new quiz. Fingers crossed. First be in the directory where the assistant is, and then Rasa shell, and we'll see if it works. If this works on the first time, I will be shocked. So shocked. Pepe says 79 characters. I know. I'll run it all through black before I push it, which is a very strict linter. Hello Neodes says, is there a cheat sheet to run Rasa? I'll just type one while I'm answering that. We don't have like a nicely formatted one, but it's something that people have asked for, so the designers know that it is desirous. Yeah, love to take a quiz. And we're just going to do the same thing. Roly-poly. Just going all the way through. Because again, we did have this working, and I'm hoping that the only difference is going to be that we're using a different model now, and that it will work just fine, and we're not going to have any errors. It's not going to happen. We're definitely going to have errors. Different. No. Excuse me. Crawfish. I think I said crayfish last time. Same diff. No word for this. So, yeah, this is what the assistant will look like when we're finished. Except it'll be served. And if this works today, we might get the Rasa X instance up and running on Friday. And the nice thing about that is y'all can use the assistant then, which will be fantastic. Because once you have Rasa X up and running, you can share it with testers. And our goal, I think I call that a sub rather than a hoagie. I think my mom calls it a hoagie. Access road. So once you have your prototype assistant working, so it does all the basic functionality you want it to do, the next step, oh, I forgot the shoes part. The next step is to do what we call conversational driven development. So basically you have testers, not customers or users, try using the assistant, and you'll go through and you'll annotate their interactions and figure out what works and what doesn't, retrain your assistant, annotate data, say like, oh, this belongs in this intent, this belongs in this intent, yard sale, and then update your model, share it with users, the testers give you feedback, you update your model, and so on and so forth. So it's a very sort of iterative process where you have human testers who are making sure that it works in the way that that is useful for them. So that's going to be our next stage, and what I'll do is I'll get it up on a Rasa X server, and I will share the URL so people can use the assistant. And I do need to add a little disclaimer. I'm just going to say frosting because I don't want to type a whole bunch. There is a disclaimer because I want people to know that anything they submit to the bot might be shown on the live stream, which is not true of most assistants. Boy, but that's going to be the thing that we do once we get our assistant working. And then at some point we're going to have to update to Rasa 2, but by that point it'll be pretty much deployed. I'm very excited. Kitty corner. And I think the conda is actually just happening automatically because I've linked this this repo to a specific conda environment. Firefly. Kuldeep says, dope is a carbonated drink. Verge, Robbie says Star Trek. Oh, I think HAL 9000's from 2001? I think. Brew through, and I can show you once I finish doing the run through because it's going to work great. We're not going to have any errors. Water fountain. Is how to just like look at all of the Rasa shell commands that we have. Okay, so all right. Oh no, it's a very simple error. I did not import pandas as PD. Well, that's an easy one to fix. So really quickly, let me just show you. So if you just type Rasa, you should get the help menu. So if you just type Rasa once you've installed it, you can see all of the valid commands. So init creates a new simple project. Run starts a Rasa server, so run actions will start a Rasa server that's running whatever's in your Python actions code. Shell lets you talk to it in the assistant. Train trains both your NLU and core. Those used to be separate things. They are not any longer. Interactive says what it does on the tin, starts an interactive learning session to create new training data for your Rasa model by chatting, not something that we need to do at this stage for our assistant. Test runs your tests. Visualize, well, I can show you. And then data is stuff for the training data that you have, and then export takes all of your conversation history and basically lets you move it somewhere else. So, do I have to type it? Oh, right, I have to say what okay. I might have to go back and do some rejiggering. Because I did write the original system like a while ago, and there have been many subversions since. Anyway, those are the things that are in Raja Shell. Oh, I don't have any policies. Okay, I do have policies though. Well, that sounds like a problem for future, Rachel. So let's import pandas as PD, because apparently we didn't do that. Nope, sure didn't. Oh, you know what? Remember when I looked at everything and was checking if it was like correct or not? Pretty sure that I accidentally deleted an import when I did that. All right, let's try it one more time. So, where do we have the action server? Here. All right, so let's kill this. And let's kill that as well. Oh. You know why this didn't work? It's because I wasn't in a directory with the Rasa assistant. Ooh. Ooh. Are you frozen? It looks like everything else is working. Usual says, is there a way to automate you typing the answers? Yes, so you would do that using tests. And the easiest way to create tests is in Rasa X, so I'm just going to wait until we do our Rasa X install and have that all up and running to create my tests. I could do it now and give myself some slack, but I'm just not going to. Also, I should be able to visualize now because I am in the correct directory where I actually have an assistant and not a directory where I don't have an assistant. And so it's opened in a new tab in my browser. You can see that here are all of the stories that I have specified. So start, somebody asks if you're a bot, they say I'm a bot, and then it ends. If someone just says hi, then you ask if they want to start the quiz, and if they don't, then you just say like, oh no, that's okay. And if they do, then you go through and do the form, which asks all the questions. You say all of the slot values. I will remove this eventually. Right now I'm just leaving it in just for me so I can see things. Run the detect dialect action, and then utter what the response is, or say what the response is. And then, thank you, goodbye, noise, thank you, goodbye. I don't know why that's so long, but this should be them saying like, oh, thanks. Yeah, so that's the visualize portion of it. You do have to do it. You do have to do it in the directory where you have an assistant, though. All right, let's start our action server. Now that we're actually importing all the libraries we need. All right, up and running. Let's start a new step one. Go to the directory where your assistant is, and let's pop it open in the shell. And let's see. Future warning. What's deprecated? Joblib. External strong. Read serialize. Oh, there might be a problem with the models that we're deserializing. Oh, hopefully that one is for the XGBoost model, which we're not using, and not the KNN model that we just pickled. We just pickled this last week. This is why I don't like serialization. Bum bum. Okay. Oh yeah, I should probably move to a diet classifier at some point as well. Diet is dual intent and entity transformer model. But for now, let's take this quiz again. Love to take answers to a quiz. I could also do this with a shell script if I wanted to automate this. But one thing is that I make a lot of errors when I type on account of the dyslexia. So this is also for me good validation that this assistant can handle lots of spelling errors. Different. Like there. There was no T on the end of that. No word. Crawfish. I wonder where all they have crawfish. Is it just a North American thing? It seems like something that could be. No word for this. But it also seems like something that, you know, because I also think of like bison as being very North American, but they got bison in Europe. They're native there. Sub. They live in forests, or at least they do now. Presumably they didn't at one point, and then the ones that didn't live in the forests are no longer with us. Yeah, if someone wants to look up where crayfish are native to and let me know, I would take that as a kindness. Tennis shoes. My mom calls them tennis shoes. What does my dad call them? I don't know. Highway. Wow, it would be great if this one worked, huh? That would be amazing. Rubber necking. I know I need to set up tests. Lawyer, boy. So the way that you would set up a test is basically this, like you'd have a set of responses, and that your conversation go a specific way, and you should be able to have your assistant give you the correct responses that you would expect. Also, I imagine this is going to be a little bit more fun, like the first or second time that you do it. Brew through. Yes, drive-through liquor stores are a thing. They are legal some places. Usually, like, if you get a mixed drink, it's served in, like, a sealed container, because drinking and driving is illegal and a bad idea, and you should not do it. I would not be surprised if they were doing roaring business right now, though, because you don't have to go in and be with people to get things. All right, so here's all of our inputs. All right, let's look at the server logs. It's another import thing. It's just another import thing. Well, you know what? That's not a bad thing. That's easy to fix. I love things that are easy to fix. So previously, in my other assistant, in my first iteration, I had imported the load function from joblib. In this assistant, there we go. In this assistant, I had imported just joblib. And the difference there is that it didn't have it in the namespace that it knew about. All right, let's kill this. Can I restart the interaction if I just say hi? Nope. Okay. Let's kill the terminal. Let's start again. Go to the actual, nope. Keyboard's acting up again. Let's go to the, oh, maybe it's not my keyboard. Maybe it is my IDE. Yeah, it's my IDE. All right. Let me know it's non-responsive in just a second. I will say, I am delighted that these are easy to fix errors and not hard to fix errors. I fully intend for, I don't intend, I expect that there will be a hard to fix error at some point in the medium near future. So an easier to fix error is like, you've forgotten to import. A hard to fix error is there is a fundamental incompatibility between the library versions that you pickled your model with and the library versions you're trying to unpickle your model with, and trying to figure out which specific library versions those are, and then going and updating that in the original code where you created your model and then pickling it there and then unpickling it here. Not that we're pickling, we're using joblib. I am not the hugest fan of serialization as a way to store models. In this case, it's convenient, but it is going to eventually become a problem. I would prefer a hierarchical actions. Sorry, I don't need to actually say the .py. I would prefer a hierarchical way to do it, but I couldn't find a quick way to do that with KNN. It's very straightforward with linear models and things that are derivative of linear models, which is to say the vast majority of machine learning models. Much less so with space-based models that are really data dependent. Robbie says, is this a personal fun project or professional? I mean, I'm doing this for work, but I think it is also fairly fun. Hopefully y'all think it's fun. People tend to like dialect quizzes. All right, once more, launching this. We're going to take the same quiz again. Hi. One thing that I've thought about possibly doing is getting more sleep. No, actually I'm sleeping fairly well. I just had a nightmare last night. One thing I've thought about doing is having a way that people only have to take half the quiz if they want it. So, I guess breaking it up into 2 forms, and then once you've done half the slots, if you want, you can apply the model using just half the slots. But that's going to require training 2 different models, and I'm not super into that. Plus, it's just going to be more maintenance. The benefit is this is kind of a lot of questions for the quiz, so it would let people do like a shorter version of the quiz. But certainly on the back end, and in terms of work for me, it would be a lot harder. Don't have a word. There's lobster, crawfish. Oh yeah, nobody in the chat's told me about crawfishes. What's their range? That's okay. I'm trying to also think, where are lobsters endemic to? Because I'm assuming they're related to lobsters. Don't have a word for that. So certainly the Atlantic. Are there lobsters in the Pacific? There's crab in the Pacific. I don't know that there are. And they'd have a kind of a hard time dispersing because they don't swim. They just walk. Just along with seabed. Access road. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't be shocked if... Because, do we have crawfish on the West Coast? I don't think so. I think they are on the East Coast and the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico watershed. Tennis shoes. Europe? There are lobsters in Europe? I'm trying to think if I've seen like a historical Renaissance era earlier recipe for lobster. I don't think I have. Definitely like oysters, eels, lots of sort of seafood, but I don't think lobster. Yeah, Yeah, maybe they're just endemic to the North Atlantic and inland waterways that flow into it. Rubbernecking. I'm just trying to say things that are mildly interesting while I type the same thing for the 4th time. Lawyer. Boy. Getting there. Kitty corner. I can also say catawampus, which is very localized as a dialect form, but actually not included in the original dialect survey, so it would not be considered a multiple choice answer. Which is, it's in DARE, which is the Dialect of American Regional English, but again, very localized. I think they have like 2 examples of it, so not exactly a very well-known dialect feature. And I think they were both from like the sort of Hampton Roads, Newport News, southern coastal Virginia area, which is where my grandpa went to college. Water fountain. I looked at that and I was like, bubbler. I would never say bubbler. That's an upper Midwest thing. All right, moment of truth. Well, more errors. The name in code answers is not defined. Does it need to be self.encode answers? All right, so this is a little bit more tricky. How to refer to functions from within the same class in Python. So I'm just going to Google this. Python call functions within class. Someone with my exact problem. My gut instinct is that I'm going to get down to the answers and the first one's going to be like, that's not Pythonic. There's a different way to do it. What are you, a functional programmer? Let's find out. Member functions. Okay, so it is just self. Be careful, self.foo will use the method's resolution order which might resolve to a function in a different class. This doesn't work, it's inside your class, so you need to prefix it with the class name you want to refer to it, like class name. You shouldn't do it like that. A better way to do it is refer to the method directly through the class instance, which is the first argument of a class method, so like self.display. If it's a generic method, common to all instances without any instance specified reference to the method, could you please explain why one should use class name? There's only one solution where one should use class name.disappoint when you're defining a subclass that overrides disappoint but need to call the original. If you try to call self.disappoint like normal in that case, you'd end up calling the method you're just defining and get into an infinite recursion. If not inside a class, there's only one situation where you'd use class name blah 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 instead of ob blah blah blah. If ob might be an instance of the subclass, you still need to call the original defined. Oh, it's continued. Define a class name instead of the overridden version of the subclass. But note that this is very hacky and should be done in general without a very good reason. Okay, so use self, do not use the name of the class, which is the other thing that I was thinking about doing, and it appears like would be a bad idea. All right, so your method doesn't use any instance variables. Maybe it should be a class method instead. After that, you won't get an instance of self as the first argument anymore. Okay, all right, so do that. Oh, New Zealand has a freshwater crayfish. Coda. Oh, fascinating. That's way out in the Pacific. Ooh. Ooh. Now I want some paleobiologists to tell me about crayfish. That would be ideal. Alright, so self.encode answers. So that should be it. Alright, y'all ready? I'm going to type the exact same quiz answers for the 4th time. Rachel, doesn't this seem like the point at which it would be reasonable to actually go through and define a test? No. No, I don't want to do it yet. I love typing the same quiz answers multiple times. Oh. Something about I think it's the action server throwing an error that's freezing my console. Frugal Fruit says, have I seen you doing stuff for Kaggle? Probably. I used to work there. So if you have seen me before and it was not at Rasa, it was probably at Kaggle. Yeah, and then Kuldeep is confining pass self and encode answers and then call self.encode answers. Oh, so do I have to pass... You know what? There's an easier way to do this, so let's... There we go. Okay. So let's test this before we do the thing that's going to take a lot more time, which is... Boop. All right. And then the big thing that we want to change here is this relative file path, because it is no longer going to be correct. Name text is not defined. Isn't that a type annotation? Do you have to import type annotations? Did I do that in the past? You do. You sure do. Huh. Learn something every day, huh? Apparently I had already learned that in the past. All right. No errors. Fantastic. Let's give this the old college try. So we're going to try classifier pipeline, and then the function from it that we want, which is .top3kn, and then we're just going to pass it sample data. Sample data is not defined. That would be because I ain't read it in yet. How about now? All right, name load is not defined. Yep, let's see how that could be. Make sure this is nice and parallel between the two things, what we're doing. There we go. That should be updated. All right, name self not defined. Okay, so the importing that I need to do, the first argument should be self. Oh, I need to pass it into the function. Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot more sense from here. Yeah, is that what you're saying? No, I don't think that's it. All right. Sorry, like, oh, no worries, not a problem. Oh, and then people are talking about importing text. Yeah, sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, but I did eventually figure it out, as you'll find out when the stream catches up to me. Import self function. Nice. Well, I'm going to go back to this Stack Overflow question I was looking at. All right, so self P. Do I have to say that I'm importing self? Surely not. Name self is not defined. Sorry, I'm looking at the syntax here. When was this done? This is... Oh, this might be Python 2. Beans. Okay, so self is imported in the function definition. Self is imported in the function definition. I lost it. And then self dot, and then the thing. Classifier pipeline KNN. Yeah, okay. And then encode the answers. Okay, and it's picking up my doc string, so it's clear that it knows where it's from. And yet, we're running into issues. Name self. So, do I need to specify that I have self? Missing self. Cooley says it's convention not required. Yeah, I think our style guide asks for type annotations, which is why I'm including them. Instantiate classifier pipeline canon class. And class definitions in the function definition and the class definition. So I've defined self. Let's see if I can find something. Create and reference a class variable in Python. And encode answers passed first as self. Okay. Encode answers pass first as self. Do I need to specify it there as well? No. Instantiate the class and use the instantiated variable. All right, so clearly you're using vocabulary that is not meaningful to me, so I'm going to look it up. Instantiate class variable in Python 3, please. Understanding Python class instantiation. That does sound what I'm looking for. All right. Oh. Okay. Okay, so something when it... Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, I think just from this code snippet, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Let me see if I am correct. So we need... And I believe by convention these go first. So there we go. Self. And then I should be able to say self dot okay. We'll find out. We'll just try it and see what happens. Get top in. Okay, so I don't think I actually need to pass self into here. Boo. Name self is not defined. Okay, something is still wrong. Class. Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I don't think I actually do need to initialize it. I think this would be if I had variables that I wanted to have as part of the class. Encode answers takes one positional argument, but two were given. So that is just one argument though. All right, let's check out encode answers here. Data. That's all it needs. Encode answer data. Yeah, passing in the data. And then input data. Yes. Okay. Molly's talking about you're missing your parentheses when using it. See that line again where you are using the classifier. You don't need it in this case. Yeah, I did figure that out. So there's a little bit behind of lag in the class, in the chat, not the class, but that is helping. Okay, so the error is encode answers takes one positional argument, but two were given. Takes one positional argument, but two were given. Okay, but here's the thing. This is one argument is the thing. That's one. There isn't a second one next to it. I don't understand this error message. Money, you can remove the init. I did eventually figure that out. We got there. But thank you. I appreciate the help. That's a method of the classifier object. Encode answers. Encode answers takes one input, gets one input. Input's coming from there. Self.method A with A, self is also passed into, oh, that you don't need to say self. You do need self for the code. It's in the definition. Oh, so you're saying like so? It is not though. I'll give it a shot. One positional argument, but three were given. Okay, yeah. Oh, it needs a way to handle self, maybe? Like so? Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so let me take a second to talk this through for my own understanding. So, we have this, which is a reference to the class. And then here we're saying, hey, look in the current class. We want this, look in the current class. We want this function from it. This syntax also passes in whatever the current class is as a argument invisibly, which I think is what Mani was saying. So the reason I had two arguments is because I was using this syntax. It doesn't just use it as like a way of getting into the namespace. Okay, I think I understand what's going on. Pretty sure. Okay, so I'm going to go copy paste this, go back to my actions, and I'm going to have to change some things. So the main thing I'm going to need to change is the excuse me. Where we're using self. So we're using self in as an input variable, as an argument of encode answers, as an argument of top tree canon, and as a way to ensure that it's clear that we're referring to this function from within the same class. I'm going to delete the rest of this. All right. I think that makes sense. And it looks like it's working on our little sample thing, so let's give it the old college try. Oh, that's actually extremely helpful. Thank you, the FanSC2 says. Just got here, might be missing something, but encode answer seems to be a static method, and calling self.encode answers data means you call encode answers with self and data as parameters. Yes, so I did eventually get that. You can also call class name.encode answers. Self is a reference to the instance, so the specific instance that you've created, not the class itself. Thank you, that's the puzzle piece I was missing. That makes a lot more sense. This is why you often add self as an argument of instance methods. I see. Check this out if you want more details. And then there's a link to a blog post. It looks like Python's instance, class, and static methods demystified that I will bookmark to read later. Thank you. That's very helpful. I understand. It's all coming back to me now. I vaguely remember blueprints and houses from my Intro CS course. And then he's saying you do need self for encode in the definition. Python is passing the self invisible, hence it's saying 2 are given when you're passing in only 1. Okay, yeah. This is where it needs. Yes. Fantastic. Thank you. Ujwal says Python error messages are not helpful at all. So if I understood that self was being passed invisibly, that would make sense to me because I'd know, oh, that means that I need to handle it, a way to handle it in the original function definition. And now that I understand that, that error message makes sense, but there's like a missing mental link that I didn't have, which, thank you, this is very helpful. The VNSC2 says, as an aside in good practice, if you don't need to call instance method or instant fields in your method, you can definitely use it as an instance method. Oh, good to know. Thank you. All right. Oh my gosh, we've been here for an hour and a half. One last time. I want it to work so bad. Let's give it a shot. So we're going to change directory into the directory the thing is. We're going to run our action server, which is going to run the Python code that we just did. Let's give that a second. To start up, there we go. Blah, action endpoint is up and running, and then in a new terminal, I'm going to run our assistant in the shell. And if we get this working, starting on Friday, we'll be working in Rasa X, making tests. Y'all will be able to use the assistant once it's in Rasa X, which should be fun. And yeah, I appreciate that. The FanSC2 says, Python's trying to find a way to have oriented object programming is kind of weird. Yeah. And I will admit that I don't have the deepest background in object-oriented programming. I did a lot of functional stuff for a very long time. All right, let's do this quiz. So the quiz is working fine. The parts of the action file, the action server that are handling the form filling, love a quiz. Yes, please give me the dialect quiz. Working just fine. It's just the serving the model that we're having a little bit of trouble with. So pill bug. And hallucinate this, I'm gonna look up that crawfish soda once I finish this. Very interesting. Y'all. So these are just answers to the quiz that I would answer them, and I know where I'm from, and we'll see if our model works, and also if it gives me an answer that seems reasonable given my background. See? No word for that. I know some people call it like sun showers, or the devil is beating his wife is one that has shown up in the literature. Crawfish. Oh. And we are doing fuzzy matching, so I am hopeful that that will be correctly matched to a multiple choice answer. No word. Look at this. It might also be helpful for me to add a little instruction at the beginning of the quiz for our users that's like, hey, if you don't know what something's called, feel free to say, I don't know, or no word for this. Let's call that a sub. Also, I'm hungry. A sandwich sounds really good right now. Access road. Gosh, I hope this works. Wouldn't that be great? 10 shoes. My guess for where it's going to go wrong is that I should have checked the mapping from questions to slots a little bit more closely, because I did not do it. Big road where you can drive fast, highway. So slots are what I call the answers to each of these questions in a sort of like it's like the variable name for whatever the person says. And in the original data, I had just the question number in the original quiz, which is much bigger. It's like 300 questions, yard sale. And I have like a manual mapping from one to the other, and I am a little bit worried that that's not going to work since we have changed the underlying data a little bit. Or rather, we've trained a new model on different underlying data. Traffic dam, rubbernecking. We'll find out. I'd say frosting. If you can spread it, it's frosting. You can't really spread icing. Boy. If you have a distinction between those two words, which I think I've developed. I didn't used to. Kitty corner. Again, I could also say catawampus for this. That's absolutely not in the dialect data. Firefly. Verge. It's a brew-through is a drive-through liquor store. I think they also have them in like Montana or Wyoming. Definitely have them in Virginia. Water fountain. We're getting close. Alright, so we did run into an error. That's not awesome. Here's all of the sort of the slot values that I have, or the values to the answers that I've mapped using data validation. So one of the, which is the one that I just did? Crawfish. Okay, so that's been identified as craw, which is one of the answers that it had the lowest edit distance to. So the error here is where we are applying, this, formatted response, formatted responses, no, it says the same. Get top 3 KNN, self and data, but I don't need to pass in self, right? That should happen automatically. Code answers data. Aggregator says the answer to all these questions, either macaroni and cheese, ice cream, pizza, or cinnamon rolls. I think all of those would be mapped to other, and you'd get nonsense responses. about out of brain. And I have other things I need to film today. I think I'm just going to call it there. And we'll work on it a little bit later. See if we can get it all fixed up. Oh, goodness, excuse me. I don't know why this is happening. I think it worked for the other classifier, but it's not currently working for this classifier, so that's something. Yeah, well, I'm just going to call it here. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Tomorrow we will be back at the same time for paper reading group, and I think today actually it's just going to be me because everybody else is on holiday or has a different event that they are doing. But we're going to be reading the paper. Let's see if I can just pull it up real quick. So the paper we're going to be reading is from, I believe, ICML, the International Conference on Machine Learning, and this is the blog post for it. We're not reading the blog post, you're reading the paper. Reformer, the Efficient Transformer, which is a Google paper making transformers a little bit less big, slow, data inefficient. They're fairly data inefficient, yeah. So sort of tackling some of those in sort of a new way of dealing with transformers and thinking about them and different system architecture. And that should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I think it'll just be me unless somebody else has availability at the last second, which it sounds like probably they won't, which is fine. And then the next week after that, probably somebody will hop back in. We'll find out. And then on Friday, we're going to continue with this project, and I'm going to stare at this exact same code again. I might go through and create a faster way for us to just run sample data just to see if we can get it to work a little bit better. Yeah. So that is what we've done today. I think we've made really good progress. We have incorporated our modeling code into reading our model and applying it into our action server. And it runs. All of that code runs. It's just the code that actually applies the... excuse me. It's just the code that actually applies the model to the data that the users provided that's not quite there yet. But we'll figure that out on Friday. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow for the reading group. If I don't see you then, I'll see you on Friday for life coding, and then the next one after that will be next Wednesday. Same project. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for joining.